I know that there's a lot of emotion in the community, and I know there's a lot of questions and concerns around what's been happening. And I'm also quite aware of the feeling that perhaps people didn't have the opportunity to speak yesterday. And that really is the intent of today, is to allow you to express your concerns and to make sure that you're heard. It is incredibly important that you're heard and that your opinions and your concerns are addressed. I can't make that strong enough point. It's incredibly important to me that you feel heard and that you feel that your opinion counts. As most of you will be aware, I'm Larry Neufeld, your MLA, and I wanted to start by discussing Sunday. I know there were a lot of concerns as to why I wasn't here on Sunday, and I do apologize for that. I know that people have been saying that I chose to go to a meeting. Yes, I was at a meeting. It was, in politics, it's something that's called a whipped meeting, which in non-political terms means that it's mandatory, and there was the potential that I would have been fired from the party had I not attended. In retrospect, do I wish that I had pushed back and had taken that risk? Yes, I do. I am a human being. I made an error in judgment, and I apologize to you as the citizens for that error, but I am human, and it's not going to be the last error that I make. But I can assure you that I am working incredibly hard for the citizens of Tumbler Ridge. I feel proud to be a part of this community, even though I'm not a resident. I feel like I am part of this community, and I feel proud. What I've seen from this community in the last week, and I will give credit where credit is due. I underestimated the tenacity and the, how shall I say, the ingenuity of the leaders in this community. And I'm saying that in a very positive way. I'm not saying that I underestimated, that's my own fault that I underestimated. Again, very proud to be a part of this community. What I would like to do today is not so much, there's no intent to dictate anything to you. The intent is for this to be your forum, for you to be able to speak, for us to hear you. I know that there were a number of questions that came in last night, and my constituency assistant has recorded them. You will be responded to on each and every one of them. Some of them, honestly, I don't know the answers to. I have to find them. So particularly with respect to who pays for the ambulance, I believe that I have a good understanding of that, but I'm not going to answer it without being certain. I don't want to give you incorrect information inadvertently. What else do I need to discuss? I'm really happy that Dr. Helm has joined us today, for the simple fact that some of the innovative solutions or one of the innovative solutions that he's come up with is something that I will be behind and something that I will very firmly pursue with Northern Health. And yeah, I feel the concern, I feel the fear, and I've been very, very clear with Northern Health. We are all here today because of the way that potential changes were communicated or not communicated. And that's not okay. That created the fear in the community, that created angst, it created stress. That's not okay. It's just not. With respect to a couple of other things, since I do have a microphone, as I mentioned, I'm a novice politician, but it is important when I do get a microphone in my hand that I do let you guys know what's happening in the province. In general terms, there are going to be some hard choices coming in the future. And I say that for the simple fact that we are anticipating annually, this year alone, provincial only, not federal, an 18 billion with a B billion dollar deficit in 1 year. That scares me. The government projected 10.9 billion. Moody's rating agency, who's downgraded the provincial credit rating 5 times this year in 12 months, has be calculated at 14.3 billion. A very, very senior person within the government has admitted publicly that he believes that it's going to be 18 billion. I'll let that number sink in for a moment. We are paying this year $5 billion in interest, and that's before the real number is known. Next year, we're paying $8 billion in interest, provincially. That doesn't touch your federal portion of your debt either. One of the main reasons I took on this role or ran for this position is, many of you may or may not be aware, I have a granddaughter. Let me correct that for the record. I have a grandson who was graciously given to, or provided. Now I've flustered myself. I was thinking about how to tie that into the story of my daughter and why rural health is so incredibly important to me. As many of you that may have listened to me speak during the campaign may be aware, my eldest daughter, who did provide the grandson for my wife and I think I got that right, she was involved in a horrific accident almost 8 years ago now. She was hit head-on by a tractor trailer in the Pine Pass, no fault of her own. The gentleman was, for those of you that are in the trucking industry, would recognize the term barefooting. He was running the hills because he was too lazy to put his chains on. And either he hadn't greased his fifth wheel or he had his lockers in or whatever happened. When he came to the top of the hill, he couldn't turn. He came straight across and sliced through my daughter's pickup truck. It was not a survivable accident, but she did survive. If I were to show you photos of the vehicle, there is nothing left on the driver's side. The B pillar was gone. The pillar between the two compartments of the vehicle was gone. It was hours to extract her. We had the incredibly fortunate grace of two very, very high-level paramedics that happened to be transferring an ambulance through the Pine Pass that evening. They came across the accident scene and they were involved in saving her life. She was transported, and it actually gets a little, sometimes I get emotional when I speak of it, but my wife and I actually came across the accident scene as well before she had been removed. And I feel, more than feel, the concern, the fear, and the pain of the community when it comes to fear around availability of emergency services. She had to be reheated in Mackenzie. She was, I think it took 3 or 4 hours to stabilize her. Oh, sorry. I am getting emotional, sorry. At any rate, I felt that I needed to share that story because I really want everyone to fully understand how important this is to me. And with that, I would like to bring up the expert to have a quick conversation. Again, really a lot of this time, we're going to be fairly brief. A lot of this time is for you. So I want you guys to speak up. I want you to be heard, and I want your opinions to be valued. So Dr. Helm.
Thanks, Larry. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. So I met Larry yesterday. It feels like we've known each other forever. Just want to thank you for being here for us. And I want to thank everyone here. You know, the response of the community, Mayor Krakauka, the example that you've set, but the response of the community has been nothing short of magnificent. And that accounts for some of the changes we've already seen in the Northern Health response. So the announcement that came out from Northern Health on Tuesday, using the word temporary, which is what we had asked for, you know, I think that was a courageous move on their part. It showed that they had listened, it showed that they'd responded, and that they'd done what we asked them to do. I do not want to detract from that. I met them yesterday. I told them the same thing. I thanked them for doing that. it opens the door. It doesn't mean right away we agree on everything with Northern Health, but it opens the door to us, the mayor, myself, others, yourselves, constructively dialoguing with Northern Health about how to solve this. That's what it does. Without that, we couldn't even talk. Now we can talk. A problem that I'm aware of, a close friend of mine always says there's nothing more permanent than temporary. So temporary can mean different things to different people. I know what it means to me. It means we've got to be open next week. That's what it means to me. It doesn't mean that someone else thinks of it the same way. Others, well, we need to get this in place and that in place and that in place. I say it's like falling off a horse. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. The time to reopen is now. It's only going to get harder the longer you wait. And we could get to the point where it gets so hard it's just about impossible. So that's what has to happen. We have to hold people's feet to the fire. And what I want to do today, and thank you so much, Larry, for the opportunity. I just want to show you folks one way that it could be done. It doesn't mean it's the only way. It's what I've come up with. But the bottom line is we should not be waiting for Northern Health to come up with the solutions. We can help them. And this is the message I'm preaching everywhere is collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. Collaboration in good faith. So if we say we can come up with the solutions and we can give you these things on a plate, all you have to do is put them into practice. They might have come up with the same solutions, but it might have taken longer. And so by us doing this, we can get our ER open quicker. So that's why I'm suggesting these things. Yesterday's meeting, there were some very important things there. And I gained a lot from it. But I think it was an error on Northern Health's part. I think one of the tables should have been, how do we get the ER open as quickly as possible? That wasn't under discussion. My wonderful wife, Linda, opened every table she went to by saying, how does this topic enable us to open quicker? I was very proud of Linda. We are having, our mayor is setting up more meetings with Northern Health for next week, which we will be attending. And at the end of the day, I just have to look in the mirror and know that we've done our best. Doesn't guarantee any success or anything like that. I think we're going to win, but no guarantees. But we've got to look in the mirror and we've got to know we did our best. So here's my answer. And if this is put into practice, it needs collaboration from Northern Health and it needs buy-in from our physicians, which I'll come to in a second. But if this gets put into practice, we could be open by next week, reopened, just like before. And there's a thing, if those of you got phones here, or if you want to go home to your laptop, it's called VERA, V-E-R-R-A. I know it's an acronym, and I don't even know what it stands for. It doesn't matter. The E probably stands for emergency. I don't know what the R stand for. Rural is one of them, yeah. V-E-R-R-A. That's all you got to look up. V is for virtual. There you go. There you go. Yeah, virtual. Good answer. So Vera is a program which is run by my colleagues in the Rural Coordination Center of BC, RCCBC. That's another acronym. I'm sorry about that. But these are really good folks with government support, I'll tell you, who work on all sorts of things for rural BC. And one of them is to try and keep rural and remote emergency rooms open. It's a virtual service. So the problem is it perfect? No, because perfect would be having everybody in town giving hands-on, one-on-one care. That's perfect. But is Vera better than nothing? Absolutely. Does it have a good track record? Yes, it does. It's already helped, believe it or not, Dawson Creek from going on diversion. Dawson Creek. Whoever would have thought that Dawson Creek or even Fort St. John could go on diversion? It was unthinkable even 2-3 years ago. It's happening. And I'm very proud to say that our wonderful doctors have helped to keep Dawson Creek open many times by going to work there, in their extra time, by going to work shifts in Dawson Creek. That is above and beyond. You know, they're recovering from being on call here and they go and work in Dawson Creek. I mean, it's absolutely incredible to me. But so if Vera works, you come in and you see the nurse. You still have to call 911. Sorry about that. I don't believe 911 is a good solution for us right now, but that's a whole different story. Not going to go there. You still have to call 911. You still come in, you get seen by the paramedics, you get assessed by the nurse, but instead of the nurse calling the doctor on call, the nurse calls Vera. And we've got the technology here, but you can even do it on your phone. You know, you can just be talking to a doctor, maybe in Vancouver, Victoria, wherever, it doesn't matter where. And they will be able to solve at least 90% of the cases that come in. So the chances are that your doctor on call, who's still on call, is not going to get called out through the night. Now, my thinking is the next morning, whether you've actually been called out or not, if you're going to sleep knowing you're on call, you're not going to sleep as well as if you were not on call. So we need to give that doctor the chance the next morning to recover. If they've had a really good night, they can go for a hike. If they haven't slept well, they can sleep in. They only have to start working at 12 or 1 o'clock, whatever. I mean, these are details that people can work out. I don't have to give the answers. It just needs to take people with good intentions, the best of intentions, to come together and say, how do we make this work? That's what we want people to do. And so you do need a doctor on call. We still need that. And we don't want to burn our doctors out. So I'm working right now. Oh, there's really good news. I think, yeah, good news. We need good news. I believe there's a doctor that's going to be applying to work here. I think so. This is what I've been told. I can't make that person fill in the application form, but this is what I've been told. Okay, so let's hope and there might be a week or 2 or 3 before that comes through. But so for Vera to work, we need our local doctors on site. I'm working through that wonderful man, Dr. Iffy Kanambu is his last name, and he's just the most amazing guy. And he is totally on side with this. He says, yes, we can make it work. He does have to consult with his colleagues, one of whom is away. So before we can get this actually, moving ahead, we need without physician buy-in, you can't do this. But I believe that's there. I mean, we have to see what he comes up with. The other thing, once we're talking Vera, this is really important too, there are other communities in northern BC who are very worried right now, I can tell you, because they're looking at what's happening here and they're saying, are they next? The one that comes to mind is Valemont, because it's also remote, it's also a diagnostic and treatment center without hospital beds. But we in Tumbler Ridge, Mayor Krakauer and myself, we need to be talking to the docs in Valemont and the mayor of Valemont and seeing what do we have in common? And how do we team up? And how do we work together? Because maybe we can approach Vera together and have it apply to both of our communities. The difference is they've still got a functioning ER after ours. We don't. So we need Northern Health to buy into this idea. This is what I call holding feet to the fire, because we can provide, this is how you do it. We can't actually do it. One thing I will tell you is that in my communications with the leader, the medical lead for Vera, I've been told they've been very surprised that knowing what's going on in Tumbler Ridge, they're very surprised that they have not yet been called, number one. And number two, they would be delighted to help. So we need Northern Health buy-in, and we need physician buy-in. I think the physician, I have to wait for Dr. Iffy, like I said. But there is more than that. Dr. Iffy is organizing this health fair, 26th of September in a few weeks. Bless his heart. I mean, he doesn't have to be doing that. He's so busy but he wants to create something for the community. So we have a medical conference, which is for other physicians and allied health professionals, and we have Dr. Iffy arranging this health fair, which is for you folks. So I know that people are coming from Prince George to the health fair, and this is my colleague, Dr. Singh, who is a nephrologist, kidney specialist in Prince George, and his team. And they've got what's called a hybrid care model that they want to implement in Tumbler Ridge. This will take a little bit longer. Vera is next week. Hybrid care, a couple of months maybe. But they want to make Tumbler Ridge a pilot site, the main pilot site for this project, which is funded. And I hear this and I say, how lucky can we be that someone thinks about Tumbler Ridge and says, this is the place we want to make the pilot site. I mean, it's dropping into our laps, folks. And what it is, it's also virtual, so we're using technology. Is it ideal? No. Is it the best we can do? Yes. It's also using technology, and this is providing, because right now, if you call the virtual care line, every time you call, you're going to get someone different. If this comes into place, then you would have a dedicated doctor, let's say in Vancouver, who is just working on time. It's as if that person is here, but they're sitting in Vancouver. Maybe they come up here twice a year and meet their patients. But for the rest, every time you're getting virtual care, you're going to get the same person. So that would actually add 1.0 FTEs to Tumbler Ridge. There's our problem getting solved. I'm not sure why, but there has not been interest from Northern Health despite being approached. This is what I call holding feet to the fire. We need to tell Northern Health, please, we need to ask respectively, we can't order anyone around, but please engage with the hybrid care model. That's what we need to do. Our community has been fantastic. This afternoon, Dr. Iffy is taking me, he's so proud, he wants to show me the homes for our locums that Kanuma has made available, in addition to what the District of Tumbler Ridge has made available. He wants to show me, he's so proud of these homes. So when we bring locums in, and believe me, Linda and I are working on it this morning, trying to get locums. When we bring locums in, they're going to be treated like royalty. They're going to get the passes for the community center, for the golf course, for everything. There's not going to be a place where they get treated better. So anyway, what I want to, so that's, in a nutshell, that's what it is. I mean, there's no rocket science here. This is simple stuff, but it can get us open next week. And what I want to hear from Northern Health, and I'm going to say this when we have the meetings next week, is I don't want to hear all the reasons why it cannot happen. I want you to share the sense of urgency that the mayor and I will convey. I want to feel we're being heard, and I want you to have that same sense of urgency because we need to be open next week. It's that simple. And just a final comment that I want to make. I didn't actually respond to it on Sunday, but the comment by one of the Northern Health speakers that she would rather be in the ambulance to Dawson Creek to get care rather than come in and get care from doctors here. I think I'm being fair in saying that's what she said. I think that is a comment made in ignorance, not understanding what we do here. I also think it's insulting to our wonderful doctors and nurses. So I will make that point on Tuesday as well, if it's Tuesday, whenever it is. I'll make that point as well. You know, this is not what we need. We need to be collaborating. We do not need to be insulting each other. We need to be working together. But I'm going to use that term again, hold feet to the fire, because temporary can mean anything. It's a huge advance to get the word temporary there. Yes, it's not the end of the story. Larry, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Helm. Again, so proud to be a part of this community, to have an individual of this caliber that has chosen to make his life here and to create such an incredible amount of energy and an incredible amount of effort to improve the lives of his fellow citizens. So thank you for being a citizen here. Now, before we open it up, There's a couple other things, or one other thing in particular that I would like to address, and we all know that healthcare is a complex issue. Are we going to walk away from here today having everything solved in the province? No. Are we here today to have our voices heard in order to create a better situation locally? Absolutely. And with that, I would like to ask the mayor if he'd like to say anything before we do open it up for comments.
I'll be short because I think we need to hear from you guys. One thing is, it's kind of weird. I don't see security guards in here like I did yesterday. Larry, you must feel protected because Northern Health, for the ones that made it yesterday, they brought in 3 security guards from the hospitals. I honestly could not believe that. I thought, not just myself, but council was here on Sunday, and honestly, I think it was well controlled. But they brought 3 security guards up here. I was obstructed yesterday when I seen that. Again, I think Dr. Helm is not just an amazing retired doctor, but his family have given so much to Tumble Ridge. But to me, he's a leader of our community and speaks so well for our community and comes up with these amazing ideas and thinks out of the box. Like to me, Northern Health needs to think out of the box. And I think, Larry, I want to thank you for coming up, listening to the residents. I would really encourage you to come up on a weekend. Right now, we have all of our education people are working. We have all of our businesses downtown staffed. I just seen one of the businesses come in from Home Hardware. It's great they can make it, but it's really hard for business people to shut down a business to come in. But I think you need to hear it loud and clear. I think we had about 350, 400 people on Sunday. And I think we could, today we have more people today than we did yesterday. So I think you need to hear it loud and clear from all of the community of how this affects us. I think we need you to go back down to Victoria and make sure that they hear it loud and clear from our MLA. You speak on behalf of our residents and the region. We talk about the region. Obviously, I care about Tumble Ridge, but our impacts that we try things, and Dr. Helm's idea of Vera and the hybrid system, I think it's a great option to get us open and start dialogue that as we start attracting and recruiting doctors. But we also can't go to Dawson Creek and just start asking doctors to come to Tumble Ridge and give them 200 grand. Because then it shuts down the hospital in ER down there where we're going to be sent. So we've got to be very careful as we make these, and I think with Dr. Helm on side with council, and I'll be honest, I may speak to Northern Health and I may be speaking to our residents, but also it comes from our councillors. It's all the elected officials. I just want to make sure that's clear. It's not just the mayor, it is our elected officials in Tumble Ridge. So again, please speak freely in here. Larry needs to hear you. And again, I just want to make a little bit of a comment just in regards to our medical professionals that are here, our nurses, our doctors, our paramedics, and the other groups that work within our facility that we're not putting it back on them. This is not them. This is the governing body of Northern Health. I think it's really, really important because we're such a small community. We know Dr. Iffy when he's in the grocery store, at the pharmacy, or at Home Hardware, or Lush Desserts. But we need to realize that we're not putting a strain on that. We think it's, well, can't you do more? Can't you do more? I remember Dr. Helm and Dr. Lowe ran this community with 2 doctors, and you didn't wait for a doctor's appointment. If you couldn't get in this morning, you were in by tomorrow. That's changed. That's totally changed. So we need to look at that too. But I just don't want to put any pressure on our staff that's here because we want them to feel loved by the community. And I think that's really, really important right now. But yeah, again, Larry, thanks for coming up. To me, I think the residents need to tell you how they're feeling. I believe yesterday was a checkbox for Northern Health, whether you felt that way or not. To me, it was check. That part's been done. Dr. Howe mentioned it. We are going to be working with Northern Health. I think we open up a bit more dialogue now that they've made it a temporary announcement. I think it opens up the table to have a little bit more conversations with them. I know Larry's going to join us next week. We're just waiting for a time and a date. It's either Monday or Tuesday. For sure Tuesday. But yeah, we're going to have that meeting. So I appreciate if you can join us.
Thank you so much, Mayor. A round of applause for your mayor. So it was quite a decision I felt the anger yesterday at people not feeling heard. And that's why I elected to do the town hall today. I'm very, very pleased to come back and do a weekend one for those that couldn't join us today. So I'm going to throw that out to the crowd. Do you want it this Sunday, or would you rather wait for a week? Now. This Sunday? Okay, absolutely, we can do that. Well, we can do both. Yeah, that's. Okay. Yep, that's, I very much appreciate that. I've been an oil field worker for 30 years. I grew up on a farm. I know what it's like to be able to make time for these things. And that was the struggle yesterday for me. It quite honestly was. But again, I felt the anger, I'll call it anger, in the community at the perception that they weren't being heard. And that's why I want to do this sooner than later. So with that, again, this time is for you guys. This is, I do want to hear from you. Do we have a second microphone for the audience?
Nicole, run the mic for you if you like.
Oh, okay. Yep, absolutely. And I'll try to shout as loud as I can to answer.
I'll run it back so it's live.
So here, can I just make one quick point before we go? So we are live streaming this as well as recording this so that the people who can't be here can hear. So if you decide not to talk on the microphone, what the people out there are going to hear is, right? So I know it can be awkward to talk into a microphone, but we just ask that you all kind of take your turn and speak right into it. Thank you very much.
I would like to know, how does the government protocol work? Who's in charge of Northern Health? Is it the government or are they independent?
That's an excellent question. There is a board of directors that does control Northern Health, and that is who the meeting will be with on Tuesday. The funding comes from the government, but Northern Health reports to the board of directors. Does that help? That's the rationale of it. They're non-elected. I'm going to confirm that. Can we please put that down as a note to confirm? I don't believe that the board of directors are elected, but well, I don't know if you know what an MLA makes, but I'm not overpaid. Absolutely. So we will be posting on our Facebook the answers to all of the questions that are asked today. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm not as eloquent a speaker as the people that have spoke before me, so I'll try. I'll try to do my best. I don't want to slime Northern Health. There's a few things in there that I heard. The CEO of Northern Health makes $450,000 a year. That's more than double what David Eby, our premier, makes. Anyways, I'll discuss that later. On Sunday, September 7th, it was mentioned a possibility of some of the emergency care being covered by nurse practitioners. I don't know whether that can be taken any further. The Northern Health response to that was, do you want an experienced doctor or do you want just a nurse to look at your loved ones? And in addition to that, they said, we are presently hiring and teaching our paramedics in Dawson Creek advanced life support. I guess I wonder how that affects us. If the distance from Dawson Creek to here, like if I have a member of my family who is, I feel needs advanced life support, do we have to call and get somebody from Dawson Creek to drive here and drive them back to the hospital in Dawson Creek? I could go on about the stories. When I moved here, somebody said Dawson Creek's about an hour from Tumbler Ridge. Try that sometime. Try it. To do that in an hour. And I was a paramedic at one time. Back then, unless things have changed, you could not speed. you have to go by the same laws everybody else does. Now, we all realize in a straightaway stretch on the highway, no one coming, we would speed up, but we do that now with our vehicles. But I don't suggest that to anybody to do that. It's against the law, and with the number of animals that we have on our highway, the moose, and what we're talking about quite often is care in the evenings, maybe 10 o'clock. What are your chances of hitting a moose at that time? I've worked in mining industry, coal mining specifically, for more than 40 years. And I have seen that it has to be the most dangerous professional environment you can ever get into. I think everybody I know that's been involved in the coal mine has had people they know, friends, family, that have been killed in the mine. I'm not saying that a doctor on call would have stopped that, but this environment, our environment here with our what we enjoy doing in the winter. In the winter, there is snowmobiling. There's hiking in the mountains. I think the nature of a lot of what we do here in Tumbler Ridge is with danger, and so I wonder whether Northern Health totally understands the situation we're in. I know I slimed them by saying the amount they get paid. I think also just the chances. What do you think if I was in Tumbler Ridge, my wife had an emergency, I felt that was she needed advanced life support. For her to get help and to get into a hospital, time compared to that CO of Northern Health, his family getting help, what is the difference? I think we're talking roundabout from Dawson Creek here and back, we're talking maybe 4 hours. And that, nobody wants to hear that, but, and I guess I'm spouting off. I don't know whether there's an answer to any of it. I think I'd like to hear that about the nurse practitioners, if that's a possibility.
So Dr. Helm has graciously agreed to answer the question on the nurse practitioner. What I will say with respect to the ambulance time, part of the rationale, and I'm not speaking on Northern Health's behalf at all. What I'm saying is that my understanding is that a second ambulance was added to Tumbler, and I'm not defending anything here. I'm being factual. That a second ambulance was added to Tumbler, and another ambulance of a higher level of care was added to Dawson Creek with the intent of the meeting in the middle. But again, I'm not defending, I'm not promoting anything, I'm just factually stating.
Thanks, yeah, thank you for the question. And look, I didn't want to talk too long. I could have gone on about lots of other things as well, but I wanted to keep it brief. But you've specifically mentioned nurse practitioners, and that is an excellent suggestion. The trouble is you can't just make one materialize tomorrow. So my approach to this is, and I actually spent part of yesterday talking to people that I thought might be able to create scholarships, bursaries, with return of service agreements. To become a nurse practitioner, if you're a nurse, is 2 years. So the trouble is, if you wait 2 years and then you start doing it, you've lost 2 years. So you've got to start doing that today. I've been talking to Mayor Krakauka about this. We think there are organizations, industry, etc., in Tumbler Ridge that could do this, could create such a scholarship, and then it's up to them if it's year for year, 2 years equals 2 years, or 2 years equals 4 years return of service. That's for them to decide. But yes, absolutely, we need not just physicians, we need nurse practitioners. They train differently, they do different things, but they can also work in the emerge room, and that's what they can do. And they can prescribe, and they can do lots of things. They're fantastic. I've worked with NPs. It's been a great privilege for me to work with them. So they're different from doctors, but they're wonderful. We've got to bring them in. We've got to bring them in on board. And your questions about the ambulance, you know, we in Tumbler Ridge, I don't want to, it's hard even to talk about it. We've been through such a dip with our ambulance service compared to, so I'm very irritating to people because I say back in the 90s, I sound like an old guy, but this is how it used to be. This is how good it was. And we lost the second car, and then often we lost our first car. So as a community, now all we have is a fire department. And our fire department was incredible. But they shouldn't be the only ones around. You know, so we went through the dip. What I learned yesterday is that ambulance service is now on the up, which is fantastic. I welcome it. Anything like advanced care, paramedic, all these things, they're going to be able to do remarkable things. And these are fantastic. They're to be welcomed unless they offer to us in place of an open emerge room. That's not okay. But everything, yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. Thank you very much, Northern Health, for doing that for us. But it does not take the place. I think that's my point, yeah. And the final thing just to say is, we've got an airport here. We can fly people directly out here without having to go to Dawson Creek. And so, through no fault of Dawson Creek, is not a criticism of Dawson Creek at all, because they're doing their absolute best. But there are many times when our patients in Tumbler Ridge, because they had access here and because of our airport or of our helicopter pad, we got them down, and I'm looking at Barb, because Barb and I would work on this together, and I know our more recent docs have been doing the same thing. We will get them down to St. Paul's Hospital or Vancouver General quicker than they would in Dawson Creek. Why? Because Dawson Creek's got an ICU, and we don't. We've got no beds. So we would make the case, we've got nothing here, we've got no beds, please help us. If you're sitting in Dawson Creek on the phone, oh, you guys have got an ICU, put the patient in your ICU and we'll let you know when we got a bed. So the response was different for Tumbler Ridge and Dawson Creek, and that is something I will be telling Northern Health. You know, it's not just, no, you're going to Dawson Creek for your care. We would do better treating people in Tumbler Ridge than they would get treatment elsewhere. So, and that's a fact. Okay.
One of the other, I see a couple of hands here. One of the other comments that I wanted to address that I had heard, because that's another one that's personal to me, is backcountry. I was a prolific, before I was elected and had time, I was a prolific backcountry snowmobiler. And I would wear out a new snowmobile every year. And I've had to activate my inReach twice. And I'll tell you, that's a pretty nerve-wracking situation when you're waiting, when you have exposed bones and when things are, and yes, I know that we take that risk when we intentionally choose to go into the backcountry. There's a certain element there where we're responsible for ourselves, but when things go really bad, it's without help closest to us, that's a scary situation. So.
Yes, good morning, Larry. I'm wondering, did anybody get a hold of Kanuma Coal? These people are big in this community. They help this community a lot. And I don't know the people in Kanuma, but I don't know if we have even a representative here. And I didn't see anybody over the last couple of days. I'm wondering if you could look at contacting them.
There was an individual here yesterday. I don't know if she was here in the capacity of official as Kanuma or if she was here as a resident, but there was an individual here yesterday. And I know that the mayor has reached out to Kanuma as well, and I believe that Dr. Helm also has spoken to them around the nurse practitioner scholarship component. I will be. Honestly, I haven't yet, but others have, yes.
I'm a resident pre-Dr. Helm. My family came here in 1984 when this community was well serviced in every facet of medical care. I'm still here. I have experienced many emergencies after hours. My husband lost nearly his entire hand in a mining accident within hours. He had been brought down to the emergency room, treated by Dr. Helm, air-vac'd to Edmonton, had his surgery, and I was able to go within 2 days to pick him up. That would never happen here. He has had heart attacks. I have had heart attacks. Here in this community, after hours, we have been looked at, again, by the fabulous Charles Helm, but other doctors as well. And we were treated royally, we were treated quickly, we were air-vac'd out of this community. I was taken to Chetwynd, and then from Chetwynd to Prince George by air. Never happened here. 10 years ago, my husband's last ride by ambulance, we were in Dawson Creek. He was a 6'2" individual, nearly 300 pounds. He fell in the bathroom over the tub. I had to get him out, get him on his walker, and call the ambulance. There were no ambulances available in Dawson Creek. There were no first responders available in Dawson Creek. The ambulance that was available was returning to Fort St. John and was in Farmington. They turned around, they came back. I gave them instructions clearly where we lived. We lived in Upper Montney, just around the traffic circle. An hour and a half later, they arrived at our residence. It took nearly an hour for them to assess him, get him to the hospital. He laid on a gurney for 48 hours before they put him in a room. This is unacceptable. The conditions that they have caused us here, and I am up here with anxiety because of what I experienced in the past. Now I have mobility issues. I have just recently been diagnosed with congestive heart. I have lung conditions. I can't schedule when these are going to happen. I'm old, I fall. I spent 2 hours down here with 2 large hematomas on my head from a fall. Never did see a doctor. And we had doctors then, but it is what it is. I'm still here today, and I'm telling you, I will fight with every breath I have left in me to get our ER open, and I don't care what it takes.
Thank you so much for sharing your painful story. And that's really, again, folks, that's the intent, is for everyone to have a choice or a chance to voice your concerns. And I'm here to fight with you. I'm here to fight for you.
Hi, thanks for coming. I'm just kind of like thinking, because I'm from Vancouver Island, and the Vancouver Island Health Authority has mass amounts of problems. It seems like every health authority in BC has a huge amount of problems internally. Why is nobody being held accountable? Like, why are these people allowed to be in these positions where they make poor decisions, where thousands of people are now being, losing like ER services or worse, and Cyril gets a raise? Why is it that they get raises and the decisions that they make, it's like there's no, like they're completely removed from the people that they're supposed to be serving? And this has been going on since I was in high school 15 years ago. Why has nothing changed? Why are people not being held accountable in these health authorities? Why is nothing being done to do this? Like, the answers are there. The solutions are there. Charles has come up with many great solutions, and Northern Health was saying no to some of them. Those people should be ousted. We need to have people who actually care. Why is this not being done?
That's an excellent question, and I'm sure you're not the only one that had that on your mind. What I would say is that the ultimate authority does lie with the Minister of Health. And both the Mayor and I have been speaking with the Minister on multiples of occasions, and that is a question I will broach to her. I don't know that I would get an answer that you would necessarily be satisfied with, but it's an excellent question. It's an excellent question. Currently, no. I would say currently no, other than through elected channels.
Hello, I got two parts here. First part is a question in regards to the proposed virtual care. You're proposing to have virtual care for the non-acute kind of injuries where they could be diverted or treated, by paramedics, and have a physician on staff for the more acute, injuries. I work at the mines, for example, and there's a lot of industry here in Tumbler Ridge, whether it be the mines or pipeline or recreation, where we're exposed to very hazardous conditions. To me, it's very concerning. I'm a big guy, right? I work at the mines. If I were to have a heart attack or a serious injury, what's the response time? What's my, chances of surviving getting from the mine to an ambulance? So we have, mine rescue and stuff, right? But I'm not trained to deal with, life-threatening conditions to the point where you have at the hospital. To come here to be sent to Dawson Creek, on a good day, it's an hour-and-a-half drive in an ambulance, one way, on a good day. We have bad roads. Winter time, the roads are horrible. So you get add an extra half hour, 45 minutes to that trip. So if I'm having a heart attack, what are my chances of surviving being 2 hours out to seeing a doctor that could actually do anything about it? Do we have someone here on call that would be able to come in on those extreme conditions to help out, or is it just virtual altogether?
Dr. Helm again has graciously agreed to answer that question, as he would be far more qualified than I. It did pique something in my memory that I wanted to speak to as well, but when I first heard of the changes here and I knew that we were losing 2 doctors, my first thought went to the incredibly hardworking, incredibly diligent first-line workers. And actually, I'll pass it over to Dr. Helm before I finish that.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, and thank you for the question. You're asking very specifically about heart attacks, which is fantastic. And I'm just going to say in the very beginning, heart attacks are different from strokes. If you're having a big stroke, before you can be treated, you need a CT scan. I drew up the policy for strokes. Don't bother to come here. Go straight in the ambulance to Dawson Creek, because you need a CT scan, and then Dawson Creek can decide whether you need the clot buster drug or not. Strokes are different. Strokes are an exception. You didn't ask about strokes, but that's just so you understand about strokes. But heart attacks, there's a thing called thrombolysis, which people know it as the clot buster drug. that, because we don't have the capacity here, neither does Dawson Creek, neither does Prince George, to get you to a cath lab. I mean, ideally we get you to a cath lab, but it's going to take a day or two from here. So instead, the best, and this is not just northern BC, this is across Canada, across the world, rural places use the clotbuster drug. That's what you need. And I was able to ask yesterday, can these new ambulance services, the second car, etc., that we're getting, can they, because there are ambulance services that can now give the clotbuster drug. This is a huge advance. Previously, we've been giving it in the emergency room as quickly as we can. We aim for a door-to-drug time. In other words, from when you walk in the door to when you get the clotbuster drug, 20 minutes. That's the aim. Don't always get it right, but we have to have an aim. That's what we aim for. But at the moment, these ambulance, the paramedics we got are not qualified to administer the clotbuster drug. So I established that yesterday. That was my question to them yesterday. Maybe in a few years' time, yes. At the moment, at the time that Northern Health closed our ER, no, they don't. After hours. When I say closed, we know what we mean, after hours, yeah. So if it means that you have, I'm talking about you, but you brought up the question. If you have your heart attack at the mine, you're going to take half an hour to be brought down here. If it's in the daytime, you're going to be assessed here, you're going to get your ECG. If you need the clotbuster, hopefully door-to-drug time of 20 minutes, you get your clotbuster drug. It doesn't always work, but most of the time it does, or it makes some difference. At the same time you're getting it, people are arranging with St. Paul's or Vancouver General or whatever to hopefully fly you out. It's an effective, efficient service. If this happens to you after hours, you now have to say what's going to happen. Well, you now don't have a half an hour drive to where you can get the clotbuster drug. You've got a 2-hour drive, I'm going to guess. If it's winter, 4 hours. Will it still work after 4 hours? Maybe. But the reason we go for the door-to-drug time of 20 minutes is because the quicker you give it, the more effective it is. So every hour, and some people come in, I've had my chest pain for 6 hours. We've lost the opportunity, right? We want people to get the chest pain, be in here in 10 minutes, because then we can give the clotbuster drug as quickly as we can. Doesn't always work. Life gets in the way. Reality is different sometimes. But you've asked a very good question, because in your situation, after hours, I don't like it. I could use stronger language, but I'm going to say I don't like it.
That's sometimes the challenge with watching our language. We're live streaming, so thank you again, Dr. Helm. I think Helen had a question.
In November of 2022, a new Health Provisions and Occupation Act was passed by the BC government, Bill 36. I'm wondering if, and I've asked this question of many people and haven't had an answer back yet, is this causing restrictions that is helping cause the inadequate healthcare in BC?
Thank you for the question. The way I would answer that is I'm not overly familiar with it, I'll be quite honest. I would say that NDP policy over the last 7 years has created a situation where we find ourselves today. I'm no more happy with it than any other single person in this room. I'm not. As it was simply mismanagement on so many levels, and I don't know that it would be fair to point all of the problems at one specific thing. The healthcare system is a mess, and it's not just here. It's not just in the north. It is provincially and it is federally. There's not one solution. There's not an easy fix. But I think we've started on an incredibly strong path for Tumbler Ridge, and I believe that community engagement is the key to getting there. Is it going to be perfect? No. Are we going to improve it? Yes. And that's going to be improved with community input.
No. Hey, Larry, this is coming from Keisha Pinkston. They're out of town, couldn't ask this. They recently took a road trip, or a family member of hers took a road trip to Dawes Creek on the BC ambulance unit. Was told by the paramedics on the unit that they've noticed that with the new ambulance and the suspensions they have, they cannot take the rough road from here to Dawson. So they are now traveling between 60 to 80 kilometers an hour. It's right here in the message they left on Wednesday, I believe she says. 60, 80, and that was told to them by the paramedics.
I don't even know what to say about that. I think Dr. Helm and I had a little back and forth about language restrictions, and I'm going to adhere to those. I don't even know what to say to that. Wow. Does it surprise me? No. Was it something I was expecting? No. Is it something that perhaps could have been considered? Yes. I don't know how to answer that other than wow.
I was speaking with the ambulance guy yesterday when I had my time over there, and he was saying that those guys don't even know whether it's going to work. It was put on them by Northern Health, and they're still playing it by ear. They have the first part of this month covered with ambulance crews, and they're scrabbling to find ambulance crews for the rest of the month. So how is that going to work out? If those guys, what are they playing? It seems like they're playing Russian roulette with our lives. That's a ridiculous scenario, as far as I'm concerned.
You make a very valid point. In fact, I recall being at the table when you asked that question, and the response, I don't have a better response for you either, to be quite honest. It's something that, again, this came so quickly that I don't know who does have the answer, quite honestly. And you make a very valid point, and I believe that that's part of what's contributed to the fear in the community, is the unknown. And we don't have these answers, and that's the fearful part.
Hi. Northern Health has been talking around in circles. Is there any way that you guys can get away from that and get them to talk straight to us instead of in circles? Because every time we have a round table, we had the 4 tables yesterday, and everything they told us was a circle. There was no really telling us what was going on. They were just going around in circles, as far as I'm concerned.
I hear and very much value your comment. And the reason I do is I still am a professional engineer, and I practiced as one for 30 years. And I ran into that exact same problem. When you're addressing individuals that aren't part of your profession, it's easy to speak in acronyms. It's easy to speak in terms that others don't understand. And I believe that I worked very, very hard over my career to avoid doing that. And I can ask the individual who's on his phone right now to attest, oh, he's not listening, to attest to the fact that I made that very, very clear to them in the morning meeting prior to addressing the crowd. I will continue to hammer on that. It's incredibly important that the public is engaged, and it's incredibly important that the public understands and there's dialogue, that it's not being spoken at, that there's dialogue. So your concern is very noted. It's something that I brought up ahead of time, and I will continue to hammer on that.
Hello, thank you for being here today. In light of what has happened in our community, it seems that everyone from our town, our mines, we were all blindsided by the ER closing. I think it was a day notice people had. And what I'd ask of you is if you could go back and just make sure that when there's decisions made that are as enormous as the healthcare in our community, that they didn't decide this the day before we found out, that they need to consult with our government, our people, our mine that's taking care of all of the workers in town. They didn't have a chance to make a plan, and this can't happen again. They can't blindside us. So in the future, this has happened once, but I don't think anyone can stand for this happening again. So if you could bring that message down there, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the comment. I will say I already have, and I will continue to. That was the first comment that I made to the Minister of Health when she phoned me, and I've made that comment to many times to the executive of the Northern Health. To me, it's just not acceptable that there's fear in the community that doesn't need to be there. And sometimes changes are necessary. This isn't one. And if it had been communicated in terms, and not communicated, if the community was engaged and had an opportunity for input, I honestly don't think we'd be here today. Absolutely, thank you.
All right, I have a question from the comments from the live stream, which is actually a good follow-up to Linda. Actually, this one is more a prequel to Linda's, which is basically, have we got a straight answer of why the public wasn't notified earlier? We had less than basically a day's notice. Why did we as a community have to sit in the dark around this?
Thank you for that very important question. The way I'm going to answer that, in light of, again, Dr. Helm and I's pledge, is going to be that responsibility was taken on by one of the individuals, that they had dropped the ball with respect to communication. And that was after it was very firmly suggested to them what I just stated, is that we're here today because of a lack of communication and a lack of engagement. So I don't want to say a whole lot more than that, other than yes, responsibility was taken by one of the individuals involved, and I would probably leave it to that individual to make that public.
Thank you. Yes, I live in this town for almost day one, long time. And anyway, that we need this service, that for especially this emergency. Yes, because especially last time when my grandson born, and Charles, Dr. Helm, he's the one who gave us big help to fly to Vancouver, because 50-50, my grandson. So how we is always like that, that we have the service. Please help us to have this service emergency. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. Absolutely. That's why I'm here, and that's why I will continue to be here. I know there was a hiccup earlier this week, and I do apologize. I already have apologized. It's I'm learning the job. So, but yes, absolutely. I'm going to continue. So that's a good segue into, we'll do another one of these on Sunday coming up, permitting that the room is available. And then we'll do one the following Sunday as well to give everybody the opportunity to be heard.
Hi. So as we talk about debt and our current government, my question to you would be, what do you see the PCs, or is it Conservative Party? I don't even know the proper term anymore. But what does that look like for you? I have a daughter who has a friend in nursing. She's expected to work regular hours. As a student, she doesn't get paid. She's still expected to do all the nursing duties and make sure that she gets the good marks. Plus then she has to pay off student loans. We have doctors. A teacher in our community on Sunday said that their son was not willing or was worried about going forward because of student loans. And so I happen to know there was a teacher who came specifically to Tumbler Ridge about 3-4 decades ago, specifically because there was loan forgiveness. I find that it's pretty easy for us to start pointing fingers at other people about why things aren't happening. So I guess what I would ask you is your personal opinion on what loan forgiveness looks like and how you think that we can continue to recruit doctors and nurses.
Another excellent question. And I'm here as your MLA and I represent everyone, but I will factually answer your question. It's actually the Conservative Party of BC. And I know that there has been a great number of, and as I say, there's going to be some tough choices coming, guys. I'm not sugarcoating that for you. There's going to be tough choices with the debt that we have, with the credit downgrades that we've had. There's going to be some tough choices coming. What I will say specifically to your question is that there has been a significant, and I will clarify, healthcare is not one of them that has ever been talked about, or I believe ever would be talked about within our caucus. I'm not allowed to, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that publicly, but it's, what I will say further to your question is my personal opinion, before I end up burying myself on live stream here, my personal opinion is I'm very much in favor of forgiveness of debt for retention and recoupment purposes. I went to university for 7 years. I grew up below the poverty line as the eldest son of a farmer in Saskatchewan, and I know what that debt is, and I know what that debt feels like. And when you start out in a career and you have that hanging over your head, wow, I know that stress. So my personal opinion is I would very much support it.
Thanks for coming in, Larry. A couple of things. I know it was probably about 25 years ago, there was a pilot project that was introduced through Northern Health and the University in Prince George about keeping doctors in the north and how we would do that. And I think it was a pilot project, Charles, I can't really remember, but they talked about if students coming out of university decided to stay in the north, there would be, in terms of holding back student loans and stuff, and if they left early, they would have to pay that back. And that was raised on Sunday by Mark Deely. He added a little something on the end, which I didn't agree with, but there was a program like that in effect, and I just don't know what happened to it. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, and it was raised on Sunday as well, why is it so hard to get a prescription filled in this town? I'm on a boatload of meds every day. And when I get low on certain antibiotics, because they only give you so much for 30 days, make an appointment, come and see us in 3 weeks. That's not right. Absolutely not right. So I'm just raising that issue again. And the last thing I want to say is Highway 52. When is something going to be done about that? I've ridden in the back of an ambulance on that highway, and that was before the Dipsy Doodles or the W's, whatever you want to call them, and it's horrible. So, I mean, somebody's going to die there. That's what's going to happen. So, anyway, thank you very much.
Very valid points, thank you. What I would say is that the conversation there, more than once, as I recall yesterday, there was a conversation around potential for, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but potential for options as far as speeding up prescription renewals. Where those are at and how they'll be executed, if they will be, I can't answer that for you right now. What I will say with respect to Highway 52 is I feel your pain, literally, and it's something that I have broached with the Minister of Transportation, Mike Farnworth, and that along with the Taylor Bridge and the twinning of the roads. I spoke to a couple of individuals earlier today, and it's no secret outside of the Legislative Assembly that we are not a swing riding. And so what has happened is that because the election is so close, they have taken the bulk, if not all, of the money that was scheduled for construction, repair, hopefully not a whole lot on the maintenance side, and they have injected that into the swing ridings. One of the ugly... Yep. Yep. Agreed. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And when I bring this up, the fair share agreement gets thrown in my face quite often. So yes, we are receiving back monies for those types of things that you're talking about. Is it enough? No. Is it being spent appropriately? I can't argue that it is. What I would say is that I literally feel your pain on the highway, and it's something that rather than reduce the speed to 60 kilometers an hour through the dips, just fix them. That doesn't, I'm an engineer, it's not, granted again, financial restraints, et cetera, but the reality is, it's fix it.
Thank you for coming. You may have been made aware that on Sunday, Northern Health basically blamed people for not self-diagnosing and accessing care. They very strongly implied it, and not in so many words, but it was obvious what they were saying. Is it possible to get back to them how wildly inappropriate and frankly insulting that was? Not only that, it's horrifically dangerous because she just told a whole bunch of people, maybe don't call, maybe don't come in, and that's gonna create a whole, I mean, on top of the fear that's already happening, it created another layer of fear, and it's gonna create a whole bunch more problems.
Thank you for the question. What I will say is that was a topic of conversation locally yesterday, and things are underway to ensure that is moved through the appropriate channels.
Hi there. So I'm a relatively recent resident of Tumble Ridge. I've lived here for about 2 years now. And my sort of question / comment is when Northern Health was here on Sunday, they talked a lot about recruiting new doctors and such. What they didn't talk a lot about was doctor retention. So like I said, I've been here 2 years. When I moved here, as I worked closely with Dr. Helm at the museum, there was excitement. We're getting a 4th doctor. We're going to have so many doctors for everybody. And then in 2 years, we're down to, as far as I'm aware, 2 on part-time. And then I have friends who are both doctors and work in the medical facility. I can see when they're not working there that they are stressed out. And I'm worried that we're going to be pushing that stress of having to deal with all of our cases onto the doctors and nurses and paramedics in Dawson Creek and Chetwynd and beyond. And all I got when I asked this question on Sunday to the Northern Health facility is, we're just going to make sure that Dawson and Chetwynd are open. That's not acceptable. That's just passing the buck onto someone else and hoping it works out. So I'm wondering if they gave any more information on how they're going to make sure we just don't stress out every healthcare person in the Peace region.
Another excellent question. That is honestly where my mind went when I first heard about this announcement, is what effect is this going to have on the incredibly hardworking medical professionals in the community already. The unfortunate reality is what we're hearing from the health department or the health minister is that they're pushing the onus onto the communities to go out and recruit the medical professionals. Do I agree with that? No, I do not. We've made that very clear, but really what that creates is communities competing with each other, trying to entice medical professionals. That's an excellent question, and I did have a conversation with, am I okay to discuss that, Dr. Helm? About there are efforts to ensure retention in the community, and again, I'm an engineer. I had an engineering company, and I ran into the same difficulties. Most of my employees were MSc, PhD people, and I had to recruit them from overseas. So I was selling the beautiful area that we live in. There has to be more than money. Yep. Absolutely. Well, and that was discussed yesterday as well, is what are the root causes? What are the root issues here, and how do we fix them? Again, I will say, as a professional engineer and with what I did, I'm quite specialized. My career would have been far more, well, I don't know about far more successful, but I would have been more successful had I been in a large center, especially Calgary. I chose the North. I was raised in the North, born in the North. I've lived my entire life with the exception of my university days, and I will die in the North. You're exactly right. The people that want to be here, let's make it so incredibly enticing for them that they don't ever want to leave. I'm one. I don't ever want to leave. And I think this might be another one.
Yeah, Eamon, thank you. It's kind of like an elephant in the room, if you think about it. But, so one of the things I suggested yesterday, well, the first thing I want to say, our mayor and council have done so much to promote retention. We mustn't forget that. They've done a huge amount. The fact that we're losing a doctor or two, whatever, is no reflection on what mayor and council have done. The problem is, let's say we are now there's a new doctor wanting to come to town. Okay, I've told you that already. Now what if that doc comes and 3 months from now we're in the same situation, that doc wants to leave? What have we done? We've done nothing. So what I suggested yesterday is when you have someone like Claire, Dr. Larry Neufeld, and what an amazing doctor. Jeez, how lucky we were. For 3 years, maybe 3 years, yeah, absolutely incredible. She's decided to leave. So I'm telling Northern Health, you need, because when you apply, you get an interview, you have to be interviewed. So I'm telling Northern Health, you need to do, please, an exit interview. Why have you decided to leave? There has to be a reason. Maybe it's a family emergency somewhere else that doesn't, okay, that's fine. These things happen, but maybe it's something to do with our facility or something else that's going on. We need to know about that. Now, is Daryl, you're still here? Yeah. What I'm going to say is those exit strategies do not only need to be, those interviews, exit interviews, don't only need to be conducted by Northern Health. I'm going to suggest they get conducted by our district, because we need to know. It's not just Northern Health that needs to know. We need to know what makes the difference there. So, and as Larry said, and at yesterday's meetings with Northern Health, I mean, I sounded, and Mayor Krakaka we sounded like broken records. We kept on saying, you know, you have to get to the root cause. If you don't get to the root cause, the problem is going to recur. And then we're just wasting our time and other people's money. We have to get to the root cause. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. Sorry, I'm a little bit flying in under the radar because I've missed some of the meetings unintentionally. But we touched on education and we're touching on retention. I come from Ontario. I've only been here a couple of years. So I'm not from this province originally, and like that gentleman over there, I'm only a few years here, and I'm not planning to go anywhere. I love Tumblr for numerous reasons, a lot of the selling reasons, what Canuma brings people here for. But what I notice provincially is that we call them certifications, they call them tickets here. So I think part of our challenge becomes getting qualified people from other provinces to come here. There's a lot of Ontario people who are envious of me right now, saying I found my little piece of heaven on earth, but they can't come work here. I've come here, I'm having troubles. I looked in going back to school to re-educate. If anything COVID showed us, we should be able to do online, either in-class sessions or courses. But when I was looking into medical things, I would have to go to Vancouver for 2 years. I just came here. I don't want to go away. Like there's, you know, looking at the education system, we have to look at, you want people here, you got to make it accessible. And I'm also not talking about the younger generation. I'm talking about the people who are on their second or third careers, like myself. So there's a mass amount of us out there that would love to be part of something, but we can't access it because there's no way for us to do it and be here. So has that ever been considered? Can you speak to me more about it, please?
Sorry, I know I was furiously agreeing with you, nodding. I didn't want to say a whole lot without the mic in my hand. What I will say is that has been an incredibly common topic of attacking the government over during our last sitting in the legislature. Again, I'm a professional engineer. I'm registered, or was registered in 3 provinces. I'm currently registered in 2. And the interprovincial barriers to changing certification, as you say, from province to province is hurting us. It's not just hurting us in healthcare, it's hurting us everywhere. And in my experience, certainly in my profession, or in my college of professional college, British Columbia has a significantly higher level of standard than the other provinces in which I'm registered. Is that appropriate? I would argue no. I haven't taken any additional education. Sorry, without getting down a rabbit hole here, which I've been known to do every now and again, I will say that that is a topic that is very, very much under consideration and is very much being discussed, because it doesn't make any sense why you say if you were certified in whatever, XYZ in Ontario, why on earth is that not accepted in British Columbia?
And just to go along that line of being cross-country certified, so I'm a Canadian ski patroller. It says Canadian. I'm certified across country. We're certified equally. However, there are some very resort-specific things, like if I'm coming here, I have to get recertified in avalanche and other types of evacuations that we wouldn't necessarily have to deal with. But it's across Canada certification. It's a very simple organization, volunteer-based, most expensive volunteer organization I've ever belonged to. But, you know, it goes from coast to coast. It goes from north to south. And so there's a medical system. We're first in. We do also summer events. We've expanded, not just on the slopes and the trails. We've gone to events. I was on the Ride to Cure Cancer from Toronto to Niagara Falls on bicycles in the summer. We have a motorcycle crew. So these are people who are medically, at some level, qualified. We have doctors, we have nurses, we have ambulance attendants, we have students studying to be that, all part of our volunteer organization. What a great avenue to tap into. However, you can't because it's not recognized. So there's another medical area just to consider.
Again, that's a topic that has been discussed, I wouldn't say ad nauseum, but it's been discussed at length. We will continue to hammer on it. Certainly, if you are looking at foreign trained individuals, you do have to look at the credentials and make certain that they meet Canadian standards. But why is the standard different here than in Alberta or in Ontario or in Nova Scotia? And that is exactly what we've been pushing very hard over the 4 months that we sat in the spring. And we're actually going back here October 6th, and that will be something that I will personally be pushing. How we doing, folks? You getting tired of me yet, or anyone else?
Okay, this is regarding that. I know we're short on the doctors, right? And so they're on call burnt out. Do we have full staff? Why can't we get a 24/7 RNs in there so that if there's an ambulance call and they need to be transferred, they can put an RN in that ambulance and they can administer a bunch of those drugs that those paramedics can't. Getting to Dawson's too far away. We need the clot busters and stuff, right? And they burnt out all their nurses here too. My daughter worked here for 8 years. That's why she left. Well, it's just too much.
Admittedly, not being a medical professional, I'd be hesitant to try to answer that question appropriately. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, please, thank you.
So, as a long-time ER nurse here, as you know, the nurse wouldn't be able to do it without the doctor. Like, the nurse would need the doctor's order to give that. So, well, maybe in the ambulance. But I just want to say, there's no doubt in my mind that no matter what the circumstances, when it's a life-threatening situation, whether it's a trauma or a cardiac case, the patient will always be better off here in Tumbler Ridge with the equipment that we have and the staff that we have than they will be juggling along the road to get to anywhere.
Thank you so much for that. Again, another example of what attracts me to this community so much is the people in it. I'm proud to be a part of it, even though I'm not a resident. I feel that I'm part of Tumbler, and thank you very much for that. Who's next?
Because there was 4 tables in here yesterday and we could only sit at 3 of them, I didn't get to sit at the non-acute patient transportation. So I'm wondering if somebody gets medevaced out of here or has ended up in Dawson because we've had to call 911 or they get medevaced further, how are those persons coming back? I didn't get to speak with those guys, so I don't know.
Thank you for that question. I did sit at that table, and my understanding, and I will clarify this for you because I don't want to be providing erroneous information. My understanding is that, and actually maybe Dr. Helm, I might rely on you on this one. Was it, yeah, actually maybe if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's, what can I say? I went to that table specifically to try and find answers to those things. They actually had a social worker there, which was great. And the ambulance guy who was there was great. I mean, he was a very good guy, you know. You talk to him, you know he engenders confidence. It was a good table. But, you know, we have to realize how many people there are that don't drive or don't have someone to help them drive in the middle of winter. Or, I mean, we were told, okay, there's a taxi service to get you back. But the social worker comes in at 8 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning, then that's when you can ask for your voucher. And then we were told, no, the nurses do have vouchers. There's, you know, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, the nurse can give you a voucher to get a taxi cab to come back. And I made the point, there are people in town with anxieties or just fear. Do you really want to jump in a taxi on a road like this for 2 hours with someone you don't know? You're a female patient who's in some kind of crisis. That's why you were in the emergency room anyway. You know, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry. I know people already have a problem, but this is going to make it worse. And the other thing that's going to happen is we already have 911 as kind of a firewall. That's what it is. That's why I don't like it, because we're not seeing the people we need to see, because people say to themselves, oh, I'll try and go to sleep and see if I'm still alive in the morning, and then I'll drive in. That's what people are saying. So that's why I don't believe the Northern Health statistics. I've told them I don't believe your stats, because they're not accurate. I mean, yes, your stats are accurate for what's happening, but it's not a reflection of what's going on in the community. So there are many nuances to that question, and yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I don't like it, and we make that point clear. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Again, if I don't have your answer, I'm not going to BS you. If I can't answer you directly, I'm going to either ask the individuals to help me out, or I will get back to you on it. So I hope you don't feel that I'm sidestepping any type of questions. The last thing I want to do is give you incorrect information.
Hi, another question from the chat, which is using the P word. What would the options be around a private clinic, and would we be better off if we went for a private clinic?
That is a very good question. My initial response would be, if my understanding is correct, that we would have to have someone that would want to open a private clinic, and that being a medical doctor, and if they feel that they could make an economic case for doing such. I believe that's correct? All right, you ask the mayor. Well, actually, yes.
Private clinic, someone has to be willing to run it. I don't believe it has to be a doctor, but they have to be able to hire a doctor. Do I have to repeat myself? It has to be someone willing to open it. They don't have to be a doctor, but a doctor has to be hired. So Colwood BC has done a municipal clinic. They can't run a merge, but they can run a clinic. So there is options out there for clinics.
I think it would have to, again, the economic case would have to be there to convince an individual that has the financing in order to do that. So that is an option. It's a matter of finding someone that's willing to do it. Anyone else?
If there's no ER on the weekend, does that mean sports teams won't come?
The question was that if there is not ER access on the weekend, would sports teams from out of town continue to come? My understanding from the conversations that I overheard yesterday was that no, not all, some will not, if not all will not. So again, I'm not an expert on that, but that was what I had overheard yesterday was no, they won't come.
I have, I think, more a comment than a question, but in response to what Charles said, and Barb as well, about being treated by your own doctor, not on the road to Dawson Creek. Our family certainly has gone through that. 2 years ago, I had to take my husband to Emerge, and he was treated by his own doctor. And I got to bring him home. He wasn't abandoned in Dawson Creek. The next morning, our doctor, because she knows him so well and knows our family, knows our history, she was already arranging testing for him and referrals, and within weeks, we had a cancer diagnosis, we had plans in place. And if we are going to Dawson Creek to a doctor who's probably an excellent doctor, but he's now running 2 emergency departments and overworked, that wouldn't have happened. The same thing happened with our granddaughter the year before. Took her to Emerge. And it wasn't our doctor was there, but somehow our doctor heard that she was there, and he came in on his day off to make sure she was being treated and treated well. That is not going to happen in Dawson Creek. And I am really angry that Northern Health has taken away our right to be treated in our community with our own doctors that know us. And I'm just beyond angry. Sorry, that's a comment.
Thank you for sharing. Thanks so much for sharing. Who's next, folks?
Yeah, I have a general question. I know that in situations like this, you hear a lot of opinions and worries and so on. I would be interested to know what someone in your position can actually do. The decisions that get made by Northern Health or the highways or whatever, I suspect they don't all come under your purview. And so I'm just wondering what can be done? I mean, from your office, what influence do you have to actually respond to these things?
That's a great question, because I think a lot of folks think that the MLA has a magic wand and you go tap, 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 and that is far from the truth. I've learned an incredible, exceedingly, when you go to, there actually is something called MLA school, believe it or not. And when you go to it, they tell you that you're going to be drinking from a fire hose. I would argue that you're actually drinking from 3 fire hoses. And I swallowed every drop. I did. The honest answer is we are not in government. We are opposition, so you're absolutely correct. We don't have the ability to make those changes. What we do have is the ability to advocate very strongly for our communities and for our constituents. And that advocacy comes in many forms, one of which that I have found incredible value in myself is forming relationships, personal relationships with the ministers responsible. I actually have a very strong relationship with the Minister of Health, and we speak to each other on our personal cell phones. And yes, when we're working, we have this agreement. When we're working, we are adversaries. When we're not working, we're friends. Well, yeah, friends. Sorry, I won't say her name. I was gonna let her know that I actually am okay. But yeah, so the reality is that access and that ability to influence the decision makers is what your MLA can bring for you. Not to mention adding pressure publicly through media ads, through interviews, through collaboration with other elected officials. But you are correct. And even if we were in government, if I'm, and I won't be the health minister, that's not my background, I would need to go down the hall and speak to the health minister. So you're correct. We don't have a magic wand, but I can assure you that I have been working exceedingly hard on this file, and I will use every avenue that I have. Does that answer your question? Or is that a politician's answer? I haven't learned politics yet, so I'm...
Hi again. So there was something I wanted to ask about. Oh, excuse me. There was a bit of talk on the Sunday meeting where they said they talked a little bit about budget for our community, and there was a big stink made about, you know, you're not changing our budget. My understanding currently is that yes, we're getting a new ambulance, but I thought that was under, like, funded by BC Ambulance Services. I don't know for sure. This is just my current understanding. So if they're not changing our budget, but they're closing a bunch of our services for part of the day, where's that money going, is my question.
Again, a very valid question. Short answer is I don't know, but I will find out. Please do make sure that we have that in the notes. What I would say is that, well, I don't know what else to say. That's the honest answer. It's... Okay, well, so you're setting me up. Did you guys find this of value? Yeah? Okay. Do you feel that you've been heard? Okay. What I will commit to is, again, pending availability of the room, I will be here again on Sunday, and then I will follow up with an additional one the following Sunday. And if anything in the meantime, please do email, please reach out. I want you to be heard. Do we have anyone else? We've got 10 minutes left, guys. You can't let me go this easy. One more.
Hi again. Because I missed the meetings, and I'm sure this was probably discussed, there's and I've heard today about the wonderful travel to and from on our Heritage Highway. The concept of helicopters. And on the street, I did hear something briefly saying that there was a comment made, well, there's nowhere for it to land. And I was like, what? We have an airport. I mean, on ski patrol, at the bottom of our slopes, they landed to take somebody to Toronto, right? So is there the possibility, or is it even available, or does it need to be discussed with Dawson to have a helicopter that's available, not just for critical removal, like our Orange in Ontario, but for those times when somebody is needing to get there quickly, because time is of essence.
So I'm going to follow up on this, but what I recall from having heard sitting at one of the tables yesterday is that there are, if I can recall correctly, 3 aircraft in Prince George, I believe, and I want to say, if someone else in the crowd can help me with this, I want to say there was a helicopter in Fort St. John. Did I hear that? Okay. Okay. Fixway. How far from here would that be? Yeah. Okay, so 15 minutes away. And at least the individual that was explaining it at the time was very adamant that they would mix and match and move them around. I do understand that air flights have happened out of here before, and my understanding is I don't see any impediment as to why it couldn't continue happening again.
So then my question is, with all the big construction going in Dawson Creek for the new hospital, did they put a helicopter pad there?
Well, you're the tough one today, aren't you? I did tour the hospital. I did not see one. I'm not saying there isn't one, so that is another follow-up question for me. They do. I do not recall seeing, either in the plans or during the physical tour of the facility, I don't recall having seen one.
Yeah, no, so we have the capacity here in Tumbler Ridge to land a helicopter right across the road. If we need a fixed-wing aircraft, then you've got to use the airport, which is a little distance away. It's not right next to town, and the porcupines chew the wires. So when you want to send a transfer out, the first thing you do is call the district. Please go check out, are the lights working, or have the porcupines chewed the wires yet again?
Yes, I talked with an individual about why we could not have fixed-winged aircraft brought in, because we used to. I was told that our airport does not have the capability to land the planes that they now use. It's too short of a runway. There's not lighting. It's not manned 24 hours a day. And the fact that it is so far away from Tumbler Ridge, you know, there goes another 20 minutes of your golden hour that is needed by an emergency patient. So that is part of the reason. And you have to have the lights because, like Dr. Helm said, porcupines and moose and deer and all of those critters, that's their territory as well.
Maybe I'll ask the mayor to nod yes or no. Is that accurate, what we heard? Is that the airport would be in a condition that, so we'll need to check into that.
I can answer a bit about the airport. Winter time is a little different with snow removal. It's not a high level on snow removal. Cannot be changed as we work through this process. The process I prefer is what Dr. Helm talked about right at the beginning. Let's get that Vera within the health center. If that's not something the Northern Health is open to dialoguing yet, we'll work through it. But if we start getting snow early, you know, as elected officials, we can work with staff to make that a priority, snow removal. The runway length, I would disagree with. There's certain aircraft that BCMS does use that can land here, but we also have Alberta Air that lands here. The only problem is when the pilots come in, they have last discretion if they want to land. So we've had it. I used to be a paramedic here. Sometimes they would come in, they come over Quintet and decide to divert to Dawson. Then we have a transfer. And usually, even if it's a patient needs to go, it's not a code 3 transfer out to the airport, but they need to get out of town, the best way is by air. They would upgrade that call to a code 3 call into Dawson because they don't want pilots sitting on the ground. They only get so many hours to fly and they don't want them sitting there. So I think we need to look at the airport in regards to snow removal. I believe somebody will pick this up. It'll end up all over media, just like the beavers eating the internet cable that Dr. Helm has now mentioned about porcupines eating wires for our lights. So, you know, again, I think staff, and I'll be honest, I didn't know about the porcupine. I'd heard about it. I don't think we've had many issues with the porcupines out there lately. But we all need to work with our staff too, and it's not an excuse. But Dr. Helm's correct. We can land a chopper right beside the visitor center. Usually our fire department blocks off the roads. We can they can land at the soccer field at the high school. Kanema Resources has a landing pad set up at the mine site, so they'll land it in the parking lot. So that kind of stuff there is, but to me, what we need to do is, again, work dialogue, open dialogue in a friendly way to get the ER open after hours. That is by far what we need to do. That's 100% what I'll be working on, and council, it's not just me. I know what, everybody thinks it's just a mayor. It is not. I have counselors, 6 counselors there, and we work together, so it's not just the mayor. Sometimes the mayor sits in meetings, the council's not there. I sit in meetings with Larry and Dr. Helm. But yeah, so there's lots of available aircraft here. I know they've upgraded a few jets. I don't know, we asked those questions as well about our airport length. It didn't seem like an issue with BC Ambulance. Now, one thing I do know that our paramedics can do is early launch of aircraft. So if our ambulance attendants are going out to a bear mauling or a very high trauma situation, they can launch early aircraft themselves. That I know of. They have a protocol for that with BC Ambulance. I'm going to mention that Fort St. John, I can't confirm Dawson, but I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is for Dawson with the helipad. Fort St. John did not install a helipad because they're too close to the airport. And I agree with Dr. Helm. It's still a transfer. If the ambulance isn't available right away to transfer you to the helicopter, there's a delay. So I believe Dawson Creek took the same scenario with, again, that's through Northern Health. Just so everybody knows that the hospital is owned and built by Northern Health. So my question is going to be to Larry. I did have my hand up. I hope I'm not going in front of anybody else. Can you make a promise to our residents of Tumbler Ridge as you get back in legislation, you'll work with your co-partners in regards to health critics, and you will start demanding things from the health minister of government?
Thank you for that, and the answer is yes. And I already have begun the process. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the video that I did with Brennan Day. He is our rural health critic, and I can tell you that, without revealing too much of how our organization works, that this is a topic of conversation. With the situation in Tumbler Ridge is provincially a topic of conversation within our caucus.
Let's hold our MLA. Larry, and I appreciate that. And the reason I asked that we got to do this is I believe Tumbler Ridge is the first one. I've spoke on it in the media. I do not believe we're going to be the only one. And if we lay down here and don't hold their feet to the fire, who's next? Dawson Creek, Hudson Hope, Chetwynd, Valemont, where is it next? I mean, don't get me wrong, Dawson Creek's not going anywhere because that's where everybody's, I call this central healthcare. That's what I'm going to call it, central healthcare. Keep the big facilities open. Don't worry about the little guys. We can travel 2 hours in bad roads and everything else. But that's my biggest concern, is if Tumbler Ridge doesn't fight back, they're going to go to the next one and use us as the example. Look, they rolled over in Tumbler Ridge. I'm not rolling over here. We want our ER back open, working with our doctors and our nurses and all the medical professionals. And if we need to add more nurses, let's work on that too. Because nurses, and I believe there was a question earlier about 24/7. I know Barb did that. Barb and Karen Strang were there 24/7. Wait for the buzzer to ring and come to the door. I don't know. Could we get back there? I'd love to. But I also think we got to be realistic that if we can get the initial and then start working through it. And we really need our MLA to fight for that, whether you're the government right now or the opposition. And, I have a great dialogue with Northern Health slowly starting again. I have a great dialogue with the Minister of Health, as Larry knows, but that's my mandate to her. So I talk to her every day. I'm not a provincial politician. But I don't know. I'm not allowed to come to the legislation and speak. I looked it all up, but I don't have a right. But I will be there when you present the petition that Chris and Nicole had started. So I know I will be there to watch that.
With response to the question of whether this is the first, I don't have that information, and what I will say is that your concern and your fear is valid. But I'm not privy to it. I can't confirm or deny. Anyone else? Here we go.
Last comment from me. The reason that we're being cut back is monetary, I imagine, budget, etc. What cost is a human life that doesn't make it because our ambulances are not here?
I won't even try to answer that. That goes without saying. That goes without saying. That really does. So, anything else that's, we've reached the 2 o'clock, but you know what? I'm not going to cut you guys off. What I will say at this point, I'd like some feedback, quite honestly. What would you suggest as far as a format change for the follow-up meetings, if any? What would you like more of an agenda? Would you like more of a structure? Or is it really just the opportunity to voice your concerns? The concerns? Okay.
For me, what I would like to see is the ongoing progress. I would like updates. It impacts my anxiety, and to know that something's happening gives me a peace of mind.
And how would you like that communicated to you? Okay. Anything else for future?
Thank you. My suggestion maybe would be to have your email address and maybe even the critic's email address as to where we could send letters to, so that we as individuals could send out in letters.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you Google my name, you will find it, but yeah, absolutely. I will make that my role, and the reason I'm here today is to communicate with you, to dialogue with you. Sorry, I don't communicate, dialogue. I want a back and forth. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, just in response to your asking about meetings and scheduling, there's a number of people here who are involved in churches, and scheduling a meeting on Sunday morning is forcing people to make a decision, and so I would ask that you move it to the afternoon if possible.
Very valid point. If I said morning, I apologize. The intent was afternoon, but yes, I want as many people to be able to be heard as is absolutely possible.
Good things come in threes. So here's the situation that I'm facing right now. Social media. I missed those meetings because nothing came in my inbox. And as I was talking to the mayor the other day, is I'm connected to every community group. So IA filters through what we get. I have people back in Ontario that have been following me for years and years and years. I go, hey, do you see my post? And they're like, no. So we can't just rely on the Facebook to get the information out. I don't have the answer personally. I like those good old days when we had a radio station and they could announce it. I mean, even the fly-in only communities that I worked in, they had a radio station to do that. I'm not saying we need one, but I'm just saying we can't just rely on social media to get the word out, to get the email information out to us. We need some other forum, and I don't know the answer to that. Maybe you do.
Another very honest answer, no, I don't have the answer. What I will say is that I am about as far away from a Facebook guru as you're going to find. So it's not an effective way for me to, I communicate, but honestly, the majority of what you're seeing is coming from someone else. And that, I respect and understand that challenge. I worked through that challenge professionally for many years. The only answer I have is to place it into as many streams of information as possible and catch as many people as we can. But you're right, we don't have radio stations anymore, we don't have printed newspapers. Oh, I retract, I apologize. I absolutely, you mean a newspaper that I advertise in? I misspoke. I dearly, deathly apologize to the bottom of my soul now that I've embarrassed myself. But I very much understand and appreciate the challenges around, especially when we're doing it on short notice like this. I really struggled with the decision yesterday, whether to do this meeting today or whether to wait for the weekend. But again, I made the decision based on the palpable anger that I felt yesterday, that it was needed sooner than later. And I recognize that, unfortunately, excluded a fair number of folk, and that's why I'm more than willing to come back on multiples of occasions to make sure everyone does have their say.
Just to further on that about communicating within the community here, we do have our churches. We have Willow Hall. We have our community center. We used to have a community bulletin board out in the parking lot where things could be posted. I know that Daryl has in Fresh Mart. There's word of mouth. We all have neighbors. I live in a complex that is for seniors, disabled, and low income, and we communicate with one another. We don't get along 90% of the time, but things like this that is important to all of us needs to be communicated by us first, and then by the organizations that are here. Facebook and all Instagram and whatever else is out there, I don't know, they're good. But speaking for myself, many of the seniors, and we are the ones that are being affected quite a bit, don't have that access. They don't even know how to turn on a computer or use a cell phone properly. So we as a community need to take some responsibility with the communication as well.
Just looking at Larry's schedule, I know this Sunday will work, but would next Saturday work? Because next Sunday does not. Like with the shift works, would Saturday, of next Saturday? So we could do this Sunday and next Saturday. Yeah, so.
So time of day, Sunday afternoon, Saturday, would you prefer afternoons, mornings? Does afternoon interrupt the weekend schedule? What do we want for Saturday? Evening? Okay, yep.
4 o'clock start kind of thing? 5 o'clock? Yeah.
So 4 o'clock Saturday, does that sound reasonable? And what do we want to do on Sunday? 1 o'clock start? Or noon? 2 o'clock? 12 o'clock? What, does that interfere with? I'm available, my schedule is wiped. 1 o'clock? Are we happy with 1? Okay, Sunday at 1 and the following Saturday at 4. Yep.